All right, Abel.
Hello, Joe. How are you?
Wonderful. How are you doing?
I couldn't be better. Feels
Cool.
good to be here sitting, talking with you about things that we talked about in the past, and now
Yeah,
we're going to put it on camera.
cool. So I know specifically myself a little bit about your past and your path that you took to get to where you are today. It spans what, about 30 years of your life?
Yep, about 32.
32.
hmm
Okay, can you start with how it began?
Well, when I was about 23, I had the opportunity to become an apprentice at a local YMCA.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I was able to start with very little training. And my teacher was actually my friend who I helped get him the job. He turned around and helped get me the job. We actually had little time and we trained for maybe 10 hours. That was the best training, the little amount of training we were able to do before I started my actual giving in the first 4 months, 300 massages. And it
Mm-hmm.
was 30-minute increments. So I really adapted very quickly to Swedish style and deep tissue style.
Hmm.
And as you know, reflexology became the foundation of what today is what I call reflex symmetry massage,
Mm-hmm.
that has the foundation of acupressure, shiatsu, and reflexology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you were mentioning what I've read from what you wrote is that um, quickly people really saw the benefits of your technique of this healing modality that you bring forth. What do you think, from your point of view, that people catch on to the quickest from your sessions?
Well, from the very beginning of each session, I have to inform each client that this is going to be different than a warm up on the back and then just going forth with a little deeper pressure,
Yeah.
depending on the likes of their preference of pressure. What I what I say to each client before each I just have them sit like we are now, and I listen to their what they're there for, a backache, a shoulder problem, and then I ask them for their attention that what I'm going to do is warm up on their back, but in that 2-minute warm up, my purpose is to point out 5 sensations, and those sensations are ropiness, kind of a cable feeling in a neck, thickness, compared to each tip of each scapula, boniness there. Most everybody has these 5 sensations, but compared to that tip of the scapula, you've got thickness, which is fluid buildup, inflammation, depending on the person. Everybody has ripply feelings against the spine, and they also have, of course, tenderness, lumpiness, and tightness. So all those sensations are going to quickly change when I come up here and work into the skull, work with both hands. I like to sit down. We're both breathing and we're allowing the central nervous system and the brain stem to get in touch with each other. All
Hmm.
information, all energy has to go through the brain, and unless we get the proper brain signals and circulation uh, mutual with
Hmm.
each other, then uh, the transmission isn't going to be as good as it can be. And I
Interesting.
want it to be as good as it can be from the
Hmm.
very beginning. So that's why I start at the base of the skull and then work across the occipital ridge, work the scalp 6, 7 minutes, come back, and I let the client know that they will feel a huge difference.
Hmm.
And there will only be one of those sensations that didn't quite everything else is going to be smoothed out. You're going to have more feeling on the anatomy, but the cable feeling in the neck is still going to be there. I'm going to use the ears now, and now I'm going to show how the symmetry of reflex symmetry, which is what I call my work, reflex symmetry, and it has to do with one side of the brain being able to release the opposite side of the body, the same way
Hmm.
we function every day of our life. We just don't. We've only heard this a few times in our life. Most people don't go around thinking, "Oh, I'm working. I'm working this side of the brain," but that's the same way that it needs to be released from my point of view with massage. And I've been working that way for about 11, 12 years.
Wow.
Everything's working the opposite side. So why not really use your intention in that given way? So back to the ear, I tell my client I'm going to use the ear to massage that and smooth out that cable feeling. I compare it, and then I do the opposite ear. It's much smoother, but the right side has until I get the left ear. And the way I do each extremity, the scalp, the ears, is just amazingly detailed, and it's with finesse. It's a real finesse touch.
Yeah, you were mentioning that you have a before and after effect, which is pretty much a signature of your reflex symmetry technique, your modality. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the before and after is something we've all heard of. It's in a lot of our commercials that we hear.
Yeah.
And this,
like a weight loss
program, yeah.
It's not exactly the same thing.
No, because what makes it viable, this before and after with massage, is that it brings the body awareness to the forefront of you get to see immediately this before, and you get to feel it. You don't get to see it. I shouldn't be saying see it. Here.
Really much about like instantaneous results within 5 minutes, even less.
Yes. This sample thing that I've done on lots of people. When I first meet someone and they want to know what kind of technique I do, I say, well, instead of telling you about it, why don't I just show you? I said it has kind of a before and after effect, and it has to do with the extremities, and I'll just feel one side of your neck, and then I'm going to go to the opposite ear, and I use a particular area which is in the ridge of the ear, inner ridge, and it is to, and you know, we can all do this. And help each other by doing this little motion, and it has to do with just using both your hands, both your fingers, and really feeling it, breathing. Ask him to breathe, because I ask you, just close your eyes, take a deep breath. I'm going to do the same thing, and then you can kind of get into the feeling of it. And most people, mine isn't, because I regularly massage my ears, but most people's are going to feel rigid and tender, and some are going to say, "Wow, that hurts."
Yeah.
So yeah, guess what? Guess what it's doing? When I go back to the opposite side of the neck of that ear, they're blown away.
Yeah, that was the after effect. Which I myself experienced it, plus my girlfriend and so many other people I've introduced to. For them to you.
That is the foundation, is that you're working with reflexes and you're working in symmetry.
Yeah.
And you can do this with every extremity of the body, and you can do it. I feel like that it's releasing in layers, because you can do it more than once. You can come back to an extremity. I always massage an extremity within a session 3 or 4 times, and depending on the what's going on energetically with the weakness of the body, of how weak one area is, how tender it is. When I say weakness, I'll just say tenderness, and how. What we need to do to find out if one area, let's say around the ankle, for example, is real tender on the inside of the shin bone, we find it, then I automatically know what's going to be, what I can expect kind of to find on the other side. And it might not be on the inside, it might be on the opposite side, on the outside. So opposites play a big key with reflex symmetry body work. Opposite and a dimensional symmetry. So it could be inside, outside. It could be, if it's on top, it could be on the bottom. But the other sensation that I'm looking for always is a numbness, a deadness. Just the opposite of oversensitivity.
Yeah, that was something that I experienced firsthand. I remember we met at Harley Street Creek Grass last year.
Right.
And I had a friend there who was blown away by your thing. But what happened was I remember I had this really painful local place on my arm. Like you would just brush your finger just gently around it, and there would be a spike of pain from it, just from that place. And you told, at the time you were just instructing my girlfriend how to kind of get the hang of it yourself, to kind of like figure out things herself too, but just going to the opposite part of the hand, the opposite part of the body.
I was probably trying to really get her to be aware of what it felt like before I went to the other side, and give her and when she went there, what did she find?
Well, she found deadness.
Deadness.
Yeah,
yes.
and it made me think a lot about the pressures of the body, how the symmetry works a lot with pressures. Would you say that that would be something that maybe there's high amounts of blood pressure in one area of the body compared to another?
Well, yes, and why would that be? A lot has to do, my finding is bad postures. If we're sitting on, I had a client the other day that she sits on her couch, and she sits on her ankles working on the computer. So I found all that was very evident when working on her ankles, that she needs to stop sitting on top of her ankles, like this.
Yeah.
And it's really constricting the energy flow. It's constricting, unless you want to spend some proper time every day and massaging that area to break up the energy flow, the energy that's stagnating from you sitting on it unconsciously for an hour or two every day or longer. In her case, this is a regular practice that she did that was creating stagnant energy that can eventually cause problems in your neck and back and shoulders. You're sitting on areas that correlate, nerve endings that correlate to your neck and shoulders. And then you're doing this position like this, holding up your shoulders. So you've got this energy going like this, fighting to get loose and stay, stagnant down here, and you're sitting on it. Then you're hunching your shoulders up for hours at a time. Yeah. So you're creating. You're creating
the conditions for that energy to be running the wrong way.
Yeah, it's going to backfire on you. It's going to backlash. And
you told me some really interesting stories about huge energy releases, like the one where this guy. You reached underneath his stomach and you helped him have a huge release. Can you tell that story again? How did that go?
Yeah, that wasn't long ago. It was very recent. As a matter of fact, he came in and he had just a huge, right in back of his scapula, just a lot of pain, and it just surfaced in the first that morning. He woke up that morning after the night before. His girlfriend was trying to, right on that area, was trying to release it, and it wasn't working. It got even worse.
In many cases, that type of approach is very conventional.
It's very,
and very ineffective.
Very ineffective, and even standard massage. They'll warm it up, and eventually they're going to go and try to get on that area, and go deep. And to me, that's just exactly what your body doesn't want. It's going to irritate it more, and we've all heard the bad stories that comes from that. Yeah. So going back to the story is that we put him on his side, and we allowed my hands to go up, and he had a real nice release from what I did to his tummy. We did everything else. I checked with him. We're about an hour and 10 minutes into this 90-minute session, and he still felt it. And so I decided to put him in a position that I don't do all the time, but I was following my intuition, and we put him on his side, put him comfortably on his side, and I have a particular way of doing that. It's not, again, it's not your average side. Both the knees aren't bent. And so I reached underneath there, and I worked with his tummy in this angle position. And the minute I did that, I felt that he was receiving exactly from his midsection, and I pressed in there, massaged really. He felt what I felt. We both had a mutual feeling of healing was happening immediately. And I asked him after about 3 or 4 minutes of massaging there, he confirmed that. He said something happened. I said, I felt it too the minute I touched you. So we both had a mutual feeling of healing, and I said, go ahead and move around a little bit, see if you can't feel. He says, yeah. He said, it's better. It's definitely better. He said, whatever you did, something gave. So that was, again, that to me, I'm following my intuitional sense of symmetry by putting him on that side and going in at an angle. And the symmetry there would be, my sense is that it was kind of his lower abdominals that I kind of affected, along with right underneath his rib cage, which was in his the opposite, everything opposite. See how this symmetry is? It's in back front, and then we got hard, soft. Now we're talking sensations, opposites. So everything's opposite. If you was to look at the imagery, the sensations, and the angle, there's always opposites, and the symmetry, asymmetry is part of this.
So it works on like the polarities.
Yes, yes. How the body's kind of pushing and pulling with this in itself, expanding and releasing and that kind of thing.
Nice. Well, I remember you also mentioning that this technique can also be used as a first aid in many cases. Like, for instance, how would you use that?
Yeah, first aid massage isn't a real common term used.
No, I've never heard of a first aid massage. I mean, relieving somebody within 5-10 minutes.
I mean, I've heard of it in the context that they're going to be there just in case somebody gets hurt, and they'll have a kind of a first aid tent. In that context, I've heard massage being given in that way. But no, literally, first aid massage can be given when for example, someone hurts themselves, be it an ankle or a wrist, and if you massage the opposite wrist in particular areas. I'm not going to go into the details of this, but it works in the same way that I just explained, is that you don't want to massage the area anywhere close to it. You just want to go to the opposite side. That energy, as soon as you are traumatized, that energy that was shocked is going to go to the opposite side. And if you know where to go to press on certain places, you can immediately get some pain relief because the energy, it needs to be calmed down, and you'll be meeting that shock with calmness, and it will send it right back.
I remember what you did with my girlfriend. She got her.
I was going to bring that up, but I thought I would let you bring that up.
I'm bringing it up then.
Yeah, bring it up. Yeah.
Well, we came by to spend some time with you at your place, and as we left the car, she mistakenly
left her finger in the car door. Yeah, I think it was the middle finger, wasn't it? I think it was. I think it was her middle finger, and
you came straight for the rescue.
Yeah. I said, let me see your opposite hand, and we just stopped right there in the driveway. I spent about 5 minutes, and within maybe no more than 10, minutes, she was immediately. It was because when I'm right there with a person, I get the intuitive feeling exactly where to go in these cases, and particularly when it's trauma happening right in front of me. It's just like, wow, this is most of the time people come and it's they're in pain, but it didn't start right in front of me. But something I think happens within me that because I have done so much self-healing. One of the things that we didn't talk about at the beginning here is all the self-healing that I've done with my body, and that's made all the difference in the world, is that everything that I do on other people has started with my own healing. That I've healed myself from wrist issues, from knee issues, meniscus tear, carpal tunnel syndrome, coughs, sore throats. All this began early in my career in 1983 when reflexology was hardly even known. But all I had to have was one book in my hand, and it was literally the first book ever written on reflexology from Eugene Ingram in 1932. And this book just totally inspired me to want to know that I can actually press here and take away my sore throat. And when I did that the first time, I almost just fell out. I couldn't believe that I could get rid of my sore throat by just pressing here. But you have to be adamant about it. And sometimes when I do this on people, they think, to me, it's a little absurd. But sometimes, on occasion, somebody might say, "Well, maybe that was just in my mind, that you pressed it in that ear, and you told me that when I come back, that's going to feel better."
Yeah.
Well,
all in my mind.
Yeah, it's just in my mind. No, there are charts that will tell you there's a point to the neck there. And all these charts aren't written from thousands of years for no reason at all. These charts have the information that we need on the hands, the feet, the toes. And I like to separate when I'm explaining to people that I'll be massaging your hands, your toes, your fingers, and your palms. And I separate it for good reason. Is that to me, the fingers and the palms are like two different parts of the body because of the way I work. They deserve their own time. And the way I work with them, one finger at a time with both my hands and 5 or 6 fingers, they deserve that. Each little point, I am sensitive to what it's feeling. Kind of a non-feeling or an oversensitive feeling. And that can change within inches of each other, from front to back. Sensations. So I'm working a lot with sensations, images, and angles, and that's what reflexology can do. The immediacy of the response that these nerve reflexes can have is instantaneously amazing. It's amazing. But we've got to give them the attention.
And compared to conventional, where you have people using both their hands and both sides of the person's body, as far as it seems to me, it kind of confuses the brain, confuses the nervous system.
That's what I mentioned that to you, is that the brain can't handle all this information a lot of times when both sides of the spine are being massaged at the same time. There are a few training courses that I've talked to my share of people over the years, and I've asked them, this would be a number one thing that I ask, by chance, what did you learn about massaging both sides of the body at the same time? And because I don't believe in it. I don't believe, except for maybe a little light warm-up massaging, not caring too much whether you're putting too much pressure, or as long as you're not putting too much pressure. If you're just putting light pressure and wanting to massage a little bit, but to put serious intention into massaging pressure like this on both sides of the spine, down that nice little track on each side of the spinal column, just doesn't make sense to me, because the brain says, I don't want that much information. Give me one side at a time so I can bring it over to one side of the brain and expedite what I need to do with it. I'll put it into action. But both sides of the brain getting that information at the same time it's not going to be productive. It can be much more productive giving one side of the body so the brain can work with it one side, one side of the brain at a time.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, anything else you want to add?
Other than the fact that we can all do this massage, spend more time using our sensitive areas, look for areas in back of the ear, in front of the ear, and we can pay attention to how some of these charts that we can find online can really help us with sore throats, headaches, and don't forget to check out the ear charts. They're wonderful. They're the best.
I've seen them. I like them.
I have one that's it came from China. It's got all the illustrations. It's in color, and I've had it for. It's got to be probably 70 years old.
Wow.
It's amazing, and I was inspired with that one back in the early '80s.
Cool.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
I appreciate this time.